In the game, I disguised myself as a boy to accompany a girl and accidentally tricked a cute and sweet girl. Because I felt guilty, I almost always agreed to her requests. Until one day, I accidentally found the account on my enemy's phone. I smiled and opened the message box, typing the following words word by word: "Baby, wear the skirt I bought for you tonight for me to see. Pretend, I'll let you pretend. The story is about to begin. If you like it, remember to like and follow." I was bored during the holidays, so I stayed at home and played games. Originally, I set the account information to male to save trouble. Unexpectedly, I could match with many cute girls this way. So I continued playing with satisfaction. After all, who doesn't like a sweet girl? A while ago, when I was playing in a duo, a cute and sweet girl came into the room. After playing 2 games with her, I found that she was sweet-talking and good at acting like a spoiled child, so I added her as a friend and played games with her. Hearing her calling me brother every day, I feel very happy. "Brother, do you want to play games?" When I received her message, I sat up with a somersault, unplugged the charger and threw it aside. When I looked down at my phone again, I received another message: "Brother? No time? Okay, I'll play by myself." Just by reading this message, I can seem to imagine her aggrieved little expression. I felt pity for him and quickly replied, "Come on, we're here to play." At the beginning of the game, she sent a message on the first floor asking if anyone could help grab a spot. After waiting for a long time, no one in the line spoke. When the countdown reached the last second, she randomly chose a supporting position. This caused a huge uproar, and the 5th floor immediately started cursing. "Are you blind? I want to play support, can't you see?" She politely responded, "Sorry, I wasn't paying attention." The other party pressed on, "Didn't you notice? Didn't you see that I and the 4th floor are a pair? He plays a shooter, and I must play a support. You didn't do this on purpose, did you?" She quickly said, "I can switch with you." I really didn't see it. But the 5th floor ignored her, picked a top laner, and said, "Whatever, I can't play anyway, let's see how you win." Throughout the game, whenever the shooter died, he would start scolding her. She kept apologizing, but the other party was still relentless. "You are such a bad player and you still want to grab the support, what a rubbish. If you can't play, don't play, go home and play house. With a support like you, we can't win a single game." The insults from the other party became more and more nasty, and I couldn't help but type, "Come and follow me." She followed me obediently. I led her to wipe out the enemy team. At the moment when the crystal exploded, I typed a reply, "As long as we have hands, we can win." After the game, she sent me a message, "Brother, that was awesome." I comforted her, "You are awesome. Look, we won as soon as you came." She then asked, "Brother, do you have someone you like?" I suddenly got stuck and replied, "Not yet." She didn't reply, so I hesitated and asked, "Are you still playing?" She quickly sent a message, "No need to play today." I replied okay and then tossed and turned in bed, not knowing what to do. What does this mean? Doesn't she like me? Wouldn't that mean I've hurt the heart of a cute little girl? But I am also a girl, what should I do? Why didn't I explain it clearly when she called me brother at the beginning? From that day on, she seemed to be in a bad mood for several days in a row. I felt helpless and guilty, not knowing what to do, and could only coax her silently. No matter what operations she wants to perform in the game, I will play with her. If she wants to get points, I will help her. If she wants to maintain the leaderboard, I will stay up late to help her do so. I immediately bought the new skin for her. She said she was in a bad mood and couldn't sleep at night, so I stayed up late to chat with her. I even bought her a bunch of snacks and sent them to her home, hoping that would cheer her up. Every time she received a package, she would happily send me a video and a message to express her gratitude. After finally coaxing the little girl, I finally breathed a sigh of relief. I was thinking about finding an opportunity in the next few days to tell her that I am actually a girl, and then sincerely apologize and beg for her forgiveness. In this way, I spent several days in anxiety and thought. One day, I was lying on the bed, playing with my phone, and my mother suddenly pushed the door open and said, "Play, play, play, all you do is play. Can you do anything serious in the day?" I covered my ears in annoyance and wailed. I was clearly her little darling on the first day back from the holiday, but now I have become a thorn in her side and she is dissatisfied with everything about me. She walked over to me, pulled my hands away from my ears, and issued an ultimatum, "You must go out for a walk today. If you stay lying down at home any longer, you'll get moldy." I whined in protest, "Where can I go for a walk? It's so cold." She opened the closet and threw clothes out, her tone unchanged. Your Aunt Zhang asked us to go to her house for dinner. Xiaoyi is back today. How long have you two not seen each other? It's a good opportunity to go and see each other. I looked up suddenly. Who are you talking about, Michael? He's back? My mother didn't even raise her head and said nonchalantly, yeah, it's vacation time. She said she'll be back for a few days this year. I turned off my phone in silence, pushed my mother out, locked the door, and began to change my clothes slowly, my thoughts drifting far away. Michael's parents and I have a very good relationship, so we have been playing together since we were young. Although we don't like each other, we have been living in peace. When it was time to register for the college entrance examination, I made up a school. But when the admission notice came, I found out that Michael had actually applied to the school I had mentioned. I stared at him in amazement. Are you crazy? Why did you report that? You wouldn't think. Michael looked at me indifferently, with a mocking smile on his face. What do you think? Do you think I will follow you just because you sign up? I stammered, no. Then why did you? He looked at me calmly and said, my mom asked me to apply. It doesn't matter where it is. That school also has the major I want to study, so I listened to her. I said angrily, you listened to her? Are you stupid? Have you never refused anyone since you were a child? His eyes were extremely calm. Have you always been so self-centered and self-righteous since you were a child? I stood there in a daze, then after I came to my senses, I turned around and left, and never spoke to him again since. Michael didn't come back for Chinese New Year last year, and I didn't even see him when I went to his house to pay New Year's greetings. For some reason, I always felt awkward and kept procrastinating to delay time, but was still pulled out by my mother. Standing at the door of Michael's house, I looked at the familiar door and knocked helplessly. The door opened and Michael was standing behind it. It's been a long time since we last met, and he looks a lot different. Her hair had grown a little longer, hanging down on her neck, and her eyelashes seemed to be clear. He was startled for a moment when he saw me, then made way. After dinner, my mother and Aunt Zhang went out, saying they had something to do, and left us alone at home. I pulled my mother's arm and said, can't I go back by myself first? She said impatiently, TSK, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Wait until I come back and we can go together. In the empty living room, Michael and I sat on the sofa, looking at each other. I lowered my head to fiddle with my phone while he sat next to me watching TV. I tried my best to act natural, but after all, we hadn't seen each other for such a long time, and we had such a big fight before, so there was a faint sense of awkwardness in the air. Hey, here you go, it's washed. I stared at the strawberry handed to me, then looked up at him. He turned his head away from me and spoke awkwardly, what are you looking at? Are you going to eat or not? You can't just watch me eat, right? I blinked and took it. He still had a sullen face and sat on the sofa with his head down, ignoring me. After thinking about it, I decided to start a conversation. How are you, over there? He said coldly, very good. I was so angry that I glared at him. Will you die if I say 2 more words? You are still so annoying. He finally looked up at me, same here. I called my mom in frustration and yelled that I wanted to go back. Come back soon, I'm so bored, I can't stay here for another minute. My mother comforted me on the other end, okay, I'll be back soon. I could tell she was just trying to please me, and I could even hear the sound of mahjong playing over there. Michael paused, then casually changed the channel with the remote control, which happened to be my favorite variety show. I hung up the phone silently and started watching TV. I was about to get up and get a glass of water when the TV started playing commercials. Michael glanced at me and lowered his head to fiddle with his phone. Then the phone in my pocket vibrated and I paused. It was a message from Strawberry Jelly Candy. Brother, do you want to play games tonight? I learned a new hero. I couldn't help but laugh and replied, okay, let me see how awesome it is. She then said, okay, I'll just use the skin my brother bought for me. I was amused by her. So cute, that skin is so cute, it must suit you very well. Michael sat on the other end of the sofa, staring at his phone expressionlessly. I put away my phone, stood up to get some water, and when I passed by him, he was staring at the screen intently. I accidentally turned my head and saw that his interface was WeChat chat, and that avatar looked a little familiar. I was stunned for a moment. He seemed to notice something and quickly covered the screen. He frowned and looked at me with dissatisfaction. What are you looking at? Do you have manners? I raised the glass of water in my hand. I just came out to pour water. He asked, then why are you looking at my screen? I defended myself. I didn't look, I just walked here. He turned his head away from looking at me. I suddenly moved closer to him and asked tentatively, Are you chatting with someone? He swallowed, his eyelashes fluttering. No. I asked, then why are you so nervous? He retorted, who's nervous? I was looking at him thoughtfully, and he suddenly pushed me angrily. I almost fell down. When I stood up by holding the sofa, I saw his hand stretched in the air. I waved his hand away, sat down, took out my phone and replied, am I not cute? I replied slowly, you are cute too. After sending the message, I pretended to watch TV casually and saw Michael out of the corner of my eye. He took out his cell phone stealthily, looked at the screen and smiled. I clenched my fingers and sent the message I had just typed, baby, can you wear the little skirt I bought for you tonight? Michael grabbed the phone as if he was burned and looked at me. I looked at him in confusion. His face looked normal, but there was a large red spot behind his ear that had quietly turned red. I took a sip of water slowly. Haha, it seems he knows that it's me on the other side. Strawberry fudge, right? Keep pretending, kid. I sat there quietly, pretending I saw nothing. Michael tiptoed back into the house and closed the door gently. Not long ago, I saw some cute dresses online and thought Strawberry Jelly would like the style, so I bought her several. I don't know if Michael will bring the skirt back when he comes back. I looked back at the closed door. There was no movement inside and still no response on the phone. I opened the dialog box with interest and said pitifully, baby? Why don't you reply to me? Strawberry Gummy replied, why did you suddenly call me like that? I sneered and said, you are still acting. That's good. Let's see how far you can go. Now that you've fallen into my hands today, I'll let you know what it means to regret it. What's wrong? Don't you like it? Strawberry Gummy replied, no, I like it. I like you calling me that. I then said, can you wear it for me to see? I saw a little girl wearing the same style on the street today. She looked very nice. I think it would also look good on my baby. After saying this, I looked up at the TV leisurely, leaving Michael in the house worrying about what to do and how to get through this situation. Usually I try my best to coax him, so this time he should be in trouble, right? My phone vibrated in my palm. I thought he might have made up some excuse to refuse, so I casually opened the phone and took a look. There is a photo in the middle of the screen. He was wearing a pink dress and his head was slightly tilted back so his face was not in the photo. His neck was slender and beautiful, and his delicate skin could be seen through the screen. Perhaps because she was ashamed, the skin on her collarbone was faintly pink. My heart skipped a beat and I was stunned for a few seconds, my fingers uncontrollably enlarging the picture. The light is very good and you can clearly see the blue meridians under the skin. The skirt was obviously a little small, and he felt like he was trapped in the bed, with his legs forced together. I was in a trance. Is this Michael? The phone vibrated again, making my palms numb and my heartbeat irregular. Strawberry Gummy sent a message, how is it? Does it look good? Her usual cute tone, as if she was acting coquettishly, but at this moment I felt that it was a little different from before. I somehow saved the photo. I don't mean anything else, I just thought that if the need arises in the future, maybe I can use it to threaten Michael. It's beautiful, super cute. Strawberry Gummy replied, that's good. After calming down, I stood up maliciously and knocked on the door gently. Michael? Suddenly there was a rustling sound from inside, and then the sound of something being knocked over. I smiled glumly, and imagined him changing his clothes in a panic. I finished eating the strawberries. Do you have any more? The door was opened, and Michael said with a sour face, can't you check the refrigerator yourself? His hair was a little messy, scattered in front of his forehead. The 2 buttons on the collar of his clothes were not buttoned in time, and a light red color spread outward from his collarbone. I couldn't help but tease him, how can I find it? He glanced down, buttoned his clothes hastily, and said impatiently, how do you find them? The strawberries are in the refrigerator in the living room. You can see them when you open it. What? Do you want me to wash them and feed them to you? I didn't mind at all, okay, do you want to feed me? He was choked and speechless, and went to the refrigerator to get strawberries with a cold face. I chuckled, and without waiting for my mother to come back, I turned around, picked up my coat, and went home. In the evening, Strawberry Gummy sent a message on time, playing games? I responded, yeah. Because I knew the person on the other side was Michael. That night I no longer revolved around him like I did when I played games before. I no longer flashed to avenge him, nor did I turn back to pick him up. Strawberry Jellybean asked, what's wrong with you? Are you unhappy tonight? I replied doubtfully, it's fine. He cautiously probed, did anyone make you angry? It suddenly occurred to me that I couldn't help but think of them as the same person, But now my perspective should be that I don't know that strawberry gummy is Michael's. I almost got caught, so I tried to make amends. Well, I ran into some annoying people today. Strawberry gummy asked, hated people? I said firmly, yes. I thought I would not see Michael again in the near future, but the next day, my mother asked me to take him shopping for clothes. Chinese New Year is coming soon, so you might as well buy some clothes. I complained, I don't want to, why should I go with him? My mother said impatiently, TSK, he hasn't been back for 2 years, and he's not familiar with the place. What's wrong with you taking him there? Go quickly. I glanced at the person standing at the door. He had his head slightly lowered and wasn't looking over here. I don't know why, but ever since I found out he was strawberry gummy, I can't help but feel soft-hearted towards him. Thinking about the photo I have seen countless times, I feel a little guilty for some reason. I sighed helplessly and walked out the door with him. After buying a bunch of things with him, I started wandering around aimlessly and he slowly followed me. I glanced back at him casually, turned around and walked into a skirt shop, picked up a furry winter skirt and looked at it for a long time. Suddenly a shadow fell beside him, and Michael asked curiously, do you like this? I looked up at him and said seriously, no, I just think it would look good on you. He suddenly froze, his eyelashes trembling rapidly, and he stammered, me? This is a girl's dress, how can I? I leaned close to him, lowered my voice and whispered in his ear, have you ever worn it? He held his breath, looked at me nervously, and seemed to be hesitant to speak. Without waiting for him to speak, I took a step back, picked up my skirt and gestured to him in the air. He clenched his fists nervously and stood there motionless, his ears red and his lips tightly pursed. The lights in the store were as bright as day, illuminating his ruddy face and confused eyes clearly. I shifted my gaze unconsciously, and my heartbeat seemed to become more obvious in this environment. After carefully putting down my skirt, I adjusted my breathing, turned my head and chuckled, I'm just kidding. He was obviously relieved, but still said stubbornly, what's so funny about this kind of thing? In the days before the end of the year, Emily suddenly came to my house for a tour. Linda, I'm here, you have to show me around, right? Emily was my college roommate and we often played together. When she comes here to play, I will definitely take her around. I agreed readily. I saw Emily from afar outside the airport and waved to her with a smile. Looking at her outfit, my eyes sparkled, you look so handsome, be careful or I'll fall in love with you. She raised her hands and put them around my shoulders, saying in a very cocky way, it's okay, girl. It's your destiny to fall in love with me. It was such a cold day, but she wore a black windbreaker without feeling cold at all, and she looked extremely handsome. Emily said that she cut her hair short in high school, originally to make it easier to study, but later she found that short hair was super comfortable and more handsome, so she never had long hair since then. Later, when I was performing a show with her, she wore a wig, with long curly hair, which looked very beautiful. I asked her with drool if she would keep her hair long again, and she said no very firmly, there are only 0 times and countless times to have short hair. I took Emily on a 2-day tour and we ate all the delicious food in the city. We were exhausted. And because she stayed with me at night, I didn't even play games these past few days. That day, when Emily and I were shopping together, we happened to meet Michael. Our eyes met, and Michael came up to greet me. He looked at Emily next to me and asked casually, who is this? I casually said, oh, my friend, come and play with me. He raised his eyebrows, I'm still coming to see you when the new year is almost here. It's not easy to find a hotel now, right? I rubbed my waist, which was a little sore after playing for 2 days. She won't stay at the hotel. She will stay at my house for the next 2 days. Michael stood up straight abruptly and raised his voice, live in your house? I was startled by him, why are you so startled? He looked down at my hands rubbing my waist, his eyes dark, and remained silent. Emily pulled me aside and asked quietly, who is this? Then I remembered to introduce, my friend, Michael. Michael added seriously, the kind of childhood sweethearts. Emily was stunned for a moment. I blinked and stared at him blankly. My hands hidden in my sleeves couldn't help but curl up and clench. Since we met each other, we just had dinner together. While eating, Emily habitually picked up food for me, and Michael, with an unhappy look on his face, rushed to pick up food for me. Emily covered her mouth and laughed, then leaned over to my ear and whispered, this is the friend you told me about who you haven't contacted for a year or 2 and you met again recently. I nodded. Yes. She sighed, TSK, 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 you guys don't look like that. I retorted, what do you mean? Don't talk nonsense. I glared at Michael a few times out of Emily's sight, asking him to tone it down. Emily raised her eyebrows and said, "It's okay. It's better if you don't admit it. I love to torment those of you who are stubborn." When we were almost home after dinner, Emily suddenly called me and said that there was a new movie released today and she wanted to go see it with me. I thought about it and decided it was nothing, so I agreed. Michael pulled me aside and said seriously, "It's so late, and you want to go out to the movies with her? How unsafe." I looked at the street lights around me in confusion. Everywhere is brightly lit, how can it be unsafe? He said seriously, "Is your mother at ease? If you want to go out with her, you have to let your aunt know, right?" I quickly took out my phone and called my mom, then turned on the speaker. "Mom, I'm going to the movies with Emily tonight, so I'll be back late." On the other end of the phone, my mother said with a smile, "Okay, you two have fun. Just don't wake me up when you come back. I want to get some beauty sleep." I hung up and waved the phone at Michael. "Any more questions?" Michael moved aside to let me pass, and when we passed by, he suddenly pulled me and said, "Are we really just friends?" I was confused and upset by his unusual behavior tonight. "Is this a big deal?" His voice was muffled, his eyes lowered, and he looked like he had suffered a great injustice. "Important." I looked at him, sighed, and repeated again, "Friends, really friends, good friends." Emily was walking beside me, and suddenly she raised her hand to hold my shoulders, leaned down and whispered in my ear, "What's wrong?" She hissed and smiled, "Look back." I didn't understand why, but I turned back obediently. I saw Michael still standing there, looking at this side from a distance. The distance was too far and I couldn't see his expression, but I always felt that he was in a bad mood. I couldn't help but feel a little absent-minded. Emily asked me what was wrong. I shook my head and forced a smile, trying to shake the emotion out of my head. When I walked to the cinema entrance to buy tickets, Michael sent me a message using Strawberry Jelly's number, saying that she was scared of being alone and asked me if I could accompany her tonight. I paused, and suddenly thought of Michael's curled eyelashes and his distant figure with lingering sadness. I looked at the ticket office right in front of me and held my phone tightly. "It hurts." I just fell down and hit my knee. I took a deep breath and couldn't stand it anymore. "Emily, we can't watch the movie today." She smiled and nodded, then said teasingly, "Is it your childhood sweetheart?" I asked, "How do you know?" She sneered and pushed me with her hand, "You are the only one who doesn't know." My phone kept vibrating in my palm, so I grabbed it and walked towards his house. As he walked and looked, he kept sending messages, "Woo woo woo. My knee is broken, it hurts. What are you doing? Why are you ignoring me? Last time you said there was a very useful medicine, what was it?" I didn't have time to reply and kept rushing towards his house. Standing at Michael's door, I felt uneasy. Michael was injured? But he didn't say he was injured. The one who said he was injured was Strawberry Jelly. If I go in now, wouldn't it be? While he was hesitating, a picture appeared on his mobile phone. It showed a red and swollen knee, which looked particularly terrifying against the white skin around it. I didn't think any more and raised my hand to knock on the door. Michael opened the door in surprise, his hair still a little messy. "Why are you here?" I was almost asleep. I turned a deaf ear to him and pulled him towards the room. He followed me, bewildered. When I pushed him onto the sofa and pulled up his baggy pants, he panicked. How did you know?" I ignored him and took out the disinfectant cotton swabs and medicine I bought on the way here from my bag. "It's a little painful, just bear with it." Michael's eyes were confused and uneasy. The moment the alcohol touched his wound, he was so stimulated that he couldn't help but groan. I paused for a moment and moved more gently. How did you know?" He lowered his head, his voice trembling. "I don't know." After treating his wound, I quietly packed up my things and slowly took out my phone. Click on the dialog box with Strawberry Gummy and press the video call button. The phone he placed on the sofa rang, and he looked up at me. I motioned for him to answer the phone and he picked up slowly. Our faces were in the middle of the screen. "Do you understand?" He looked at me and said in a hoarse voice, "You." I sneered. It seems that my guess was correct. "You knew from the beginning that the person on the other side was me. Do you think it's fun to lie to me?" He tightened his grip on the phone and looked at me helplessly. No. Then tell me what this is?" He apologized softly. Anyway, I'm sorry." "Why bother, Michael? You've made such a huge sacrifice, even wearing women's clothes? Why do you have to do this?" He stammered and was unable to speak, his ears were so red that they seemed to explode. I suddenly pushed him away in anger. "Michael, I really hate you. Yes, I was wrong, but you knew it was me, and you still lied to me. Is that fun?" He spoke in an anxious tone, eager to explain something but unable to say it, and could only repeat mechanically, I did not. I looked at him who was still denying it, and suddenly I lost my strength and felt exhausted. Forget it, I don't want to play along with you anymore. You lied to me, and I bullied you a lot during this period. Let's just consider it a draw. From now on, we will be the same as before, and we just don't contact each other anymore. His eyelashes trembled rapidly, and his voice was hoarse. No. I don't want to stop contacting you. Just because of something I said back then, you hate me to this extent? You even changed my contact information. I was confused by what he said. What do you mean by changing contact information? He leaned slightly to the side and said in a low voice, Before, we had a fight, and then I wanted to call you, but I found out that you had changed your phone number, and I couldn't get through to your previous number anymore. Then you won't call my new phone number? He felt even more aggrieved. How could I have that? You didn't even tell me. I was just about to say that I posted on WeChat Moments, but I suddenly remembered that my WeChat Moments are only visible for 3 days. We had an argument at the time and I blocked him. Although I let him out when I remembered later, it had already been 3 days since my moments. Oh my God, what kind of twisted plot is this? I looked at him helplessly. Why don't you ask your aunt? He grumbled, how can I ask? Under the light, he looked very childish. I sighed, I didn't change my number because I had a fight with you. I just changed it because I just entered college and a senior student was trying to sell me something. I had no experience, so I changed it without thinking. I didn't mean to hide it from you. I thought you knew, and you didn't contact me, so I thought maybe you met new friends, or you didn't want to contact me. I can't be too sentimental. He pursed his lips and said, I'm sorry, I was too emotional at the time and shouldn't have said that. Later. He didn't say anything else, but I vaguely understood what he wanted to say. Because we are all the same. When we are young, we always feel that face is more important than anything else, and dignity is harder to give up than chopsticks. Just like me, I was too stubborn to contact him again. It doesn't matter. Let's turn the page and not talk about it anymore. He looked at me and said hurriedly, can we stop contacting each other? I asked, why did you lie to me? He lowered his head and said, at first I just felt happy to reconnect with you, but then, you spoke to Strawberry Jelly Bean much more gently than you spoke to me. I was stunned for a moment. Strawberry Jelly is a girl, you still want to compete? He raised his head, you spoke to that Emily much more gently than you spoke to me. I sighed, Emily is a girl too. His eyes widened in shock, girl? I nodded, what else? Didn't you notice that she doesn't have an Adam's apple? He muttered, why would I even look at her carefully? I'm so fed up with her. I asked, why are you so upset? He complained, because she's so close to you, you speak to her so softly, and I don't like it. I teased, you don't have anything you like. You look at everyone and you don't like them. He looked at me seriously, who said that? I like you. I was suddenly stunned, what did you say? The edge of his ear covered by his black hair was a strange red, and he looked extremely shy, but his eyes were firm, I like you. A few minutes later, I stood outside, breathing in the fresh air, feeling like I was reborn. That's right, I ran away, a very cowardly and panic-stricken escape. After running back home in a panic, Emily leaned against the door and looked at me, done? I let out an awe in a trance. She shook her head in disappointment, it seems that it has been dealt with. I sat on the bed in distress, what do you say I should do? She asked, what to do? I recalled what had just happened, fell down under the covers, and said in a muffled voice, Michael just confessed his love to me. She asked, and then? I responded, then I ran. I didn't know what to do. My heart was beating so fast. She sighed and patted my shoulder through the quilt, Linda, you're done. I sat up suddenly. How am I finished? Why am I finished? She tilted her head and asked me, is this the first time someone confessed to you? I shook my head. She then asked, have you ever panicked and run away before? I shook my head. She asked again, do you hate him? I shook my head. She concluded, then you're done. What is over? I shook her to stop her from sleeping, and she turned over and waved her hands, I have tickets for tomorrow, don't bother me, I want to sleep. Ever since Michael made it clear to me, he has been completely different. When I went to his house for dinner, he quietly took out a bunch of strawberry gummies and chewed them slowly beside me. I frowned at him, what are you doing? He looked innocent and handed me a bag, candy, strawberry candy, want some? I looked at him angrily, no. He tilted his head and looked at me, smiling and blinking. Considering that my mother and aunt were at home, I couldn't say anything and could only watch him eat candy arrogantly. In the evening, Michael sent me a voice message, "Sister, can you play games with me today?" The last line of his voice rose, and it sounded like he was acting coquettishly. I sat on the sofa, holding my phone, not knowing how to reply. Michael couldn't wait for a reply, so he sent another message, "Sister? Is that okay?" His voice made my tailbone numb. I could barely hold the phone. I gritted my teeth and sent 2 words, "Log in." In the game, Michael carried out this style to the end, constantly praising me and making me happy. I don't know why, but after knowing that he was Michael, this approach became even more irresistible to me. I was so dizzy from his coaxing that I felt something was wrong. After my relationship with Michael improved, I went to his house for dinner from time to time. While having dinner together during the Chinese New Year, Michael went to the kitchen to wash the fruit. My aunt and I were sitting and chatting. She looked at me and suddenly sighed with emotion. I asked, "What's wrong? Why are you sighing suddenly?" She looked at me and said, "It's been a long time since I saw you and Sherry together. You don't know, when he registered, I didn't let him go to such a far place, but I don't know what happened, he insisted on going. As a result, after he came back one day, he suddenly locked himself in the room for several days. I asked him why he didn't apply to the same school as you, but he didn't say anything. He just seldom came back after that, as if he was hiding here. Your mom and I can see that you two are having a quarrel, right? This time he finally came back, and we found excuses to keep you two together often, hoping that you two can talk it out. Now that I see you two have reconciled, I am really happy." I sat on the sofa as stiff as a wooden sculpture. It took me a long while to hear my own hoarse voice. "You said, you want to go to school?" "Yes." Michael held out a plate of strawberries and said, "What are you talking about?" I made an excuse and took Michael back to the room. "Michael? Auntie just said that you are the one who wants to go to school." He stared at me blankly, then lowered his head after a moment. "Yes." My eyes were sore. "You lied to me, why didn't you tell me at the beginning?" He shrugged. "Oh, what's there to say? Because you heard me going there to sign up, right?" I looked at him stubbornly, and he said sullenly, "Don't think anything of it. This has nothing to do with you. How long have you liked me?" The topic jumped too quickly, and he was stunned. He said in a gentle tone, "It's been a long time." I exhaled slowly. "It seems that I am also." He raised his head suddenly, his voice trembling. "What did you say?" I said, "It seems that I am also." It's so strange, are people just slow or don't want to admit it? All my emotional fluctuations since I was a child seem to be caused by him, but I am still unaware of it. I vaguely remembered what Emily said to me that day when she was annoyed by me, those panic, confusion, accelerated heartbeats and inexplicable emotions that you don't know about are called heartbeats. I realized it later. "Michael, you asked me that day if I could be with you. I won't run away now. I've thought it through. Can." Michael cornered me in the room with a set of clothes. I stammered, "Michael, didn't you say that Auntie asked me to come get something?" He laughed. "If I didn't say so, how could you agree to come?" The room was very quiet. I looked at the bathroom door and Michael was inside. When he first came in, he asked me not to leave and said he wanted to show me something good. The door was right in front of me and there was no lock. I could just get up and leave. But for some reason, I felt like I was nailed to the spot and couldn't move an inch. When the bathroom door was opened again, my eyelids jumped and I couldn't look away for a moment. It's almost impossible to describe the feeling. The beauty that greeted me made my heart beat wildly. He was wearing a black and white dress and a black and pink headband with ears that looked like some unknown animal. Because they were face to face, he couldn't help but feel a little shy, and this look combined with his face was simply a deadly poison. I muttered to myself, "That's so foul." He slowly approached, and I could see the muscle lines on his arms, which were very beautiful. His voice was soft and hoarse. "Do you like it?" My mind was in a mess, and I was completely bewitched by him. "What are you doing?" He blinked his eyes and sounded very satisfied. "It seems that you like it." I asked guiltily, "How did you know?" He replied, "I saw that you saved my photos on your phone." "You? So, do you like it? If you like, I can wear it often for you to see." I tried very hard to refuse, but after opening my mouth several times, I couldn't say anything against my will, so I could only nod with difficulty. "Like it, who wouldn't like this? It's really unfair to test people with this." I lay on the bed in a daze, watching him change his clothes, and took out my phone to send a message to Emily. She responded quickly, "So? You two didn't do anything after all this?" I replied, what are you talking about? I just simply appreciate it. She replied, I don't want to hear it. You can even hold it in. You are not a woman. You are a ninja, right? I replied. On New Year's Eve, Michael and I watched the fireworks together. It was very cold outside, so he took out a heating pad from his pocket and put it in my hand. Here, put it on your body to keep warm. Fireworks exploded all over the sky, lighting up the night sky in an instant. He looked at me with bright eyes and whispered, Happy New Year, sister. I turned to look at him and couldn't help but smile. Happy New Year, baby. He suddenly stopped and looked at me in disbelief. I watched his earlobes begin to turn red, and an inexplicable thought flashed through my mind. I stood on tiptoe, pulled open the scarf at his collar and took a look. The skin on his neck began to turn red. I called out again tentatively, baby? Surprised to see the delicate skin turn a deeper shade of red, he blinked and grabbed my hand, begging in a hoarse voice, stop looking. I let go of his hand and looked at him. So? You're not shy because you're wearing a skirt, you're shy because I called you baby? He reached out and put my hands back into my pockets and whispered, well. It's terrible. I can't bear it anymore. I broke free from his hand, stood on tiptoe and kissed him. He stood there with his fists clenched, his light pupils misty and his body tense. A very gentle kiss, touching and leaving immediately. I looked up at him, I like you so much. He helped me turn around and said in a hoarse voice, watch the fireworks. What a pure and innocent treasure I found. Fireworks exploded and Michael was behind me, hugging me gently. I lowered my head and sent a message to Emily, I am really done now. When I got home, I lay in bed, with Michael's image in my mind. His smile, his eyes, his voice, and the way he looks in a skirt, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. Emily sent a message, are you stupid? I replied, no, I'm just too happy. She replied, then you must cherish it and stop being stupid. I nodded, don't worry, I won't run away again this time. The next day, Michael sent me a message, are you free today? I want to take you somewhere. I responded, okay, where to? He said mysteriously, you'll know when you get there. I went out with anticipation and followed him to a park. There is a small lake in the park, and the lakeside is full of cherry trees. The pink petals fall in the wind, and it is as beautiful as a painting. Michael held my hand and walked along the lake. He suddenly stopped, took out a small box from his pocket and handed it to me, this is for you. I opened the box and inside was a necklace with a small cherry blossom pendant hanging on it. I looked up at him, and he said seriously, I like you, and have liked you for a long time. I hope you can accept this and be my girlfriend. My eyes welled up and I nodded and said, okay, I do. He helped me put on the necklace, and the cherry blossom pendant felt warm and beautiful against my chest. From that day on, our relationship was official. Michael became a gentler person, and I cherished him more. We attended classes together, ate together, watched movies together, and planned for the future together. He told me that he liked me because of my kindness and strength. I like him because of his gentleness and firmness. We support and encourage each other and become the most important people in each other's lives. One day, I asked him, Michael, do you regret wearing a skirt and lying to me? He smiled and replied, no regrets. Because if it weren't for that, I might never have the courage to tell you that I like you. I leaned on his shoulder and whispered, then I also want to thank you for letting me meet such a good person like you. Our story continues, and every day is filled with sweetness and happiness. I know that in this life, I will go through countless spring, summer, autumn and winter with him and create more beautiful memories together. And it all started with that unexpected deception and a sincere I like you.